Yankees Files podcast. We are back. I'm Will Harris. You're Steve Rector. You're Alec Whipple. And the rest of you are fans of the team that still employs Everson Pereira. That team, of course, is the New York Yankees. Guys, there's a lot to discuss on this episode. Obviously, the elephant in the room is that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are hosting a college football playoff game against the University of Indiana. That's the elephant in the room, right? That's what everyone's talking about. I don't know. Maybe there was like some big free agency news or something. Gosh, I just 2-on-1
Read
now.
the room.
I used to be able to just do that stuff. Anyway, yeah, so Juan Soto's on the Mets, which is a problem, arguably as big of a problem as Clay Holmes being on the Mets. Lots of problems for me. Whipple, I'll go to you first. How are you doing outside of all of the great Yankees now being on the Mets?
I mean, I feel like when you're in the off season, it's so easy to disassociate from baseball. But I think for the last 4 days, we've all been tied to baseball in a way that I feel like hasn't really. I mean, I don't know, maybe since like outside of the season, like the last Soto trade. But I feel like this transcended that. This was like right out of the Aaron Judge free agency saga. And man,
even the Cole free agency, I felt like.
Even the Cole, maybe, I don't know. It's like some combination of Cole and Judge where like the bidding war is Cole-esque, but the player is like Judge level. And man, as happy as we were 2 years ago sitting and recording this, like that's how bad this feels right now. And I remember being in my first round of law school finals and being so happy. And I think if this was my first round of law school finals right now, I'd drop out of law school because I can't even bring myself to contemplate school in this day in the year of our Lord 2024. I mean, it sucks. It sucks so much. And like you can compare it to everything you want. 2014 with Cano, Judge, Cole, good and bad. Like I feel like this was just like every emotion that I had about baseball supercharged into this Yankees and Mets bidding war. So it's a lot to process.
Steve, how are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty disheartened right now. I think not unlike both of you guys. I mean, Juan Soto, it all feels like it was over in a whirlwind. That this guy came in, he was the saving piece that was going to make everything better. The Yankees had made the World Series with Juan Soto leading the charge. We were going to give him every dollar to stay forever. And then the little bit of time between we made the World Series and to now Juan Soto going to the Mets has been insane. The vibe shift has been insane. Everything feels flipped upside down from where it was just a couple months ago. So Yankees fans, and I, certainly include myself in that, it's just a whirlwind of emotions, and tracking this whole process, like Whipple was saying, was unprecedentedly insane. The bad reports, the information coming from all these insane places and trying to decipher what is real and what isn't. It was like a master's course on media literacy, trying to guide yourself through that process, and to come out of it with ultimately nothing to show for it. Now you wonder what you were just doing for the last 4 days, 2 weeks, last month, just reading these rumors and absorbing yourself in that just to lose him. It hurts, man. How are you feeling, Will?
I mean, Notre Dame's in the college football. I'm not just
kidding.
Just
stop.
No, I feel terrible about it. I want all the best players to be on the Yankees. I want all the best players to want to play for the Yankees. And unfortunately, that's not reality. I was thinking about the fact that the Yankees offered Soto a contract that, had he signed it, would have been the biggest contract in the history of American professional sports.
Yes.
And this gets into one of the questions that I solicited from Twitter from S Castro at SCastro87. How meaningful is Soto signing with the Mets as a commentary on the state of the Yankees franchise? And I want to tie that into this discussion because I feel like the Yankees stepped up. Yeah. I really do.
100%.
They're Randy Miller wanted people to believe that they had dropped out of the bidding at $550 million, and they hadn't. They offered him $760 million over 16 years. That is an insane offer. It's probably an offer you shouldn't make to anyone.
Yep.
And they didn't get their guy. And it seems to me that Steve Cohen was just going to beat whatever offer they put out there. If they kept going up, he was going to keep going a little bit higher. And that is what it is. I am loath to conclude that this means something big picture about the New York Yankees. It affects big picture the outlook for the product that they'll be capable of putting on the field, but that this changes the identity of the New York Yankees or changes the context in which we should think of them as existing in the sport or any of those things, those feel like pretty extreme overreactions to me. And look, I will actually tie this back into Notre Dame football in an artful way. No, really. There was an extended period of time, kind of from when I started college to a couple of years ago, when Notre Dame would play these big games against these very talented teams and these schools that should beat them by a lot. And they'd come close, but they'd lose. And at one point, I just got really frustrated with it. I said, I'm tired of getting credit for coming closer than I'm expected to in these games. And it was really frustrating because people would be like, oh, good job, Notre Dame. Like, pat you on the head because you lost by 3 instead of 15. And I'm trying not to do that with the Yankees for how they handled the Yamamoto situation, in which they offered a pitcher who had never pitched in the United States the biggest non-Garrett Cole pitching contract ever. And the Soto situation, which they offered him what would have been the biggest contract in the history of American professional sports. But at the same time, I do think they deserve credit for going to this ridiculous place for Soto. And I think it demonstrates an understanding of like, look, sometimes your guy is going to demand a ridiculous price, but you got to go after him because your guy is that important. And I'm not sure the front office will get the credit for that they deserve. And maybe they don't deserve it because they didn't land him, but I don't know. I'm kind of stuck in that area.
I mean, I think that it's really Hal Steinbrenner. Like, for me, I feel like a lot of people in that front office did not want to sign that deal. And I give credit to Hal Steinbrenner for, going in and being like, we're going to do this, put our best foot forward and actually mean it. And I think there is a different world where they top out at 650 and they say, we tried and the Mets weren't going to be outbid. And maybe it would be fair to criticize them, but to get to that level and for it to come down to that amount, I mean, I agree. I cannot blame them. I think we can observe that the Yankees have been, I think, putting a more meaningful foot forward in free agency in the last 5 years than maybe the previous few, but it doesn't do anyone any good to go back and say, well, this is all because of Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. And
yeah,
okay, but like they got good players in that time too. The 2017 to 2019 Yankees were a meaningfully different team that arguably needed those players a little bit less. Like I know they didn't win the playoffs, but that, Bryce Harper, if he had become available in say 21 or 22, maybe it's a different story. Like you can't go back and retrospectively judge this stuff. I think Hal Steinbrenner has definitely come to play. When they want a guy, he has put forward the money to get that guy. And listen, like to me, I mean, this is going to get a little bit into like the stuff we're talking about that we're just going to say maybe we don't believe. Steve Cohen is a Wall Street shark, and Hal Steinbrenner is part of a disciplined business. And you know what? I'd rather be a fan of the team with the disciplined business model that is not afraid to put forward that money to run a consistent organization. But if you're going to go in with a guy against a guy who's making $20 billion and is never going to back down on a player, like it's not going to fit your business model. That's life. Like I don't think the Yankees were ever going to win that if Cohen was going to act like that. I would rather the Yankees stick to what they do best, which is putting a consistent winner on the field. And I'd rather them not abandon that to make stupid decisions. I don't think Soto would have been a stupid decision, but if they start acting like, every player requires a contract on a level above where they're comfortable going to, they're probably going to make some stupid decisions. So yeah, like I think in the long run, this is out of their comfort zone. I'm happy that the way they operate. I don't think it has anything to do with any narrative that is, the Yankees aren't the dynasty Yankees and no one wants to take their money, et cetera, et cetera. It's just Juan Soto wanted to play for the highest bidder. Steve Cohen was going to be the highest bidder, and the Yankees weren't. And they were going to be an extremely high bidder past the point that we ever would expect. But that's just sometimes you just got to accept it. It's just something you got to accept. I don't know.
I mean, the narratives that are coming out about it, I don't know how we're even having these conversations about, do people want to play for the Yankees anymore? All of these questions in regards to this Juan Soto deal, they don't make sense to me. I don't know why it is coming out now, considering that he signed for significantly more money than the Yankees offered him. I mean, even Jeff Passan, who obviously is one of the best out there, said yesterday that ultimately Juan Soto preferred the Mets' future, their trajectory, those things. I mean, and who knows, that could be true, but it sounded like he was saying that based on the assumption that, well, he chose the Mets, so that must be true. But that doesn't make any sense to me. They offered him significantly more money, not just a little bit more. It wasn't just shouting distance. He went above and beyond what Hal Steinbrenner offered. So I don't get this notion. Why are we even using Juan Soto to have this conversation? 99% of the time, the free agent that gets the most money, that's where he's going to go. Whatever offer is the most, that's where he will go. And that remained the same this time. So these intangibles don't mean anything to me. I don't get these narratives. They're just perceptions.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point. People have let the Aaron Judge free agency cloud their view of how these things work or should work or ought
Taking
to work.
less money, right? Yeah.
Clearly, the Judge situation was he had a number in mind at which he was happy. And he was going to give the Yankees a chance to offer him that number. And if they did, he was going to sign with the Yankees. And if not, he was going to go somewhere else. And the Yankees reached that number. That is a unique case. Not everyone is Aaron Judge or Jose Ramirez or pick your guy who took a reasonable or, a reasonably team friendly deal relative to what he would get on the open market. And I'm additionally kind of perplexed by the notion that Juan Soto should have shown some sort of loyalty to the Yankees. Sure, maybe Juan Soto maybe you could sell yourself on the notion that Juan Soto loved being a Yankee so much that he would take a little bit less money to play for them. There was a world where maybe that happened, but the idea that that should be the expectation or that Juan Soto owes the Yankees some loyalty. This is a guy who, before turning 26 years old, was traded multiple times despite being a top 5 player in the sport. What loyalty has he been shown? Why would he suddenly find an interest in or take an interest in showing loyalty to some teams? I thought that was weird, and it clouded people's understanding of how this was likely to go. Now, I maintained the whole time that I thought the Yankees had a better chance than anyone else to get Soto. And I thought that was the case because I thought he would give them, or I thought they would offer him basically the same amount of money as anyone else. And, Steve, I won't give you another economics lesson.
I was a joke.
And, look, he went to the highest bidder. Do I think the 760 was meaningfully different? Do I think the extra year has value? You can debate that however long you want, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I land with you, which is it's not surprising that the guy who turned down a record-breaking extension a few years ago ended up going to the highest bidder.
Yeah. And it's he would have just, Hal Steinbrenner could have offered the same as Steve Cohen. And, probably, I'm sure there was a moment where they maybe thought about doing that, but Steve Cohen would have just went up. And I think what we know from the Judge situation is Hal Steinbrenner probably wanted to hear the, this number and I'm back from Soto. And he's never going to get that. And clearly they realized that when, Bill Madden started leaking reports. That seemed to be the moment. So I don't buy the reports that the Yankees were in the lead the whole time or it was Yankees or Red Sox. If they're in the lead, what does it matter if he was just going to sign with the highest bidder and Cohen was the highest bidder? Cohen didn't put out his high offer maybe, but I don't think anyone was sitting there like, oh, the Mets aren't going to put out another offer.
It
Like if it
doesn't
was a
feel to
bidding
me
war,
like there's any such thing as the lead.
it's so weird to describe that. Like if it's Yankees or Red Sox and the Mets were in the middle, like it just seems like the bidding war wasn't
Yeah.
over. And I think
It's not a first past the post contract
right.
negotiation. Like
I think to your previous point, like I feel like it's okay to argue, and that's part of, I guess, the fun of sports is what, did Juan Soto make the right choice? Like, what team has the better future? Did he make a mistake going to the Mets? I'm certainly happy to argue about that, but I definitely don't think did he make a mistake going to the Mets translates to he made a mistake because he should have stayed with the Yankees and shown them loyalty. Like, he could do whatever he wants, and you could think whatever you want about it, but he had the right to do that, and we can be angry about it. It's his decision.
I think we had a conversation on the last podcast episode where Whipple, I think you were saying, why would he go to the Mets? Does that mean, what does he hate the Yankees so much? And my thought was, just because he goes to the Mets doesn't mean he hates the Yankees, right? It could be for any other variety of reasons. Even if the offers were equal, he might have seen, as Passan said, maybe he sees an owner who's willing to spend more. And I think the optics of the way these two organizations are viewed right now, whether or not it's based in fact or fiction, is that the Mets are trending up and the Yankees are trending down. The Mets are new. They're got a shiny new owner with new toys and doing new fun things with this great ability to spend. And the Yankees are old and stuck in their ways. I'm not saying that's true because I don't think that is true. But I do think that that is a perception that is very common right now. I mean,
Right.
most baseball commentators will echo something to that degree right now when talking about both teams.
Right, which is like that frustrates me because the reason why I said the thing about like running like a business, a stable business, I think Steve Cohen sold Juan Soto on the fact that he can have the keys to the kingdom in addition to the money. Like the other sell was, we're gonna take care of you. You have the keys to the kingdom. You are the guy. Whatever you want goes. Like I will do whatever for you. And I think the Yankees sold him on. You've been here. You've been comfortable. We're gonna, you're gonna be the face of the franchise. But it wasn't like the unlimited Steve Cohen Wall Street money that I think was being sold to Soto. But if you look at the history that people are talking about, the future, the Mets had a miracle outlier season, went on a miracle run, which is all great, but the Yankees still had a better season than them, and that's been true for a decade. And I think it will. My guess is it will continue to be true more often than not. So it's just a like the question in my mind is like I don't really think like he saw like the future stuff is so stupid to me because it would be dumb for anyone to say that like you could project the future 15 years out. And if you could, I feel like you're reasonably going to say I'd go with the more stable organization that's going to put me in a better chance to win, which is why it makes me think, okay, clearly it's about the money, it's about the owner, it's about feeling like this is your team and you have the keys to the kingdom, but the money's got to be there, and it was there.
I
That's, I
think
think that's the
I
other
I think you
side.
could spin yourself, and I think I said something to this effect last time. And again, I'm just devil's advocating here hard because I don't believe these things. But I think there's absolutely a way to spin it in your mind, if you're Juan Soto or commentators talking about baseball, that the Mets are trending better than the Yankees right now.
Oh
I
shoot, sorry guys. I hate when this happens. The StreamYard went crazy and suddenly we're looking at Steve Cohen's criminal charges. I really didn't mean to do this. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get it off the screen. I'm really sorry guys. I didn't mean to do racketeering, SEC investigation. What? No, I promise I didn't. Oh, okay.
I didn't know I joined
A casual
YankeesFiles, man.
casual $1.8 billion in fines.
Gosh.
Criminal never should have been allowed to own a baseball team.
I mean, look, and it was the Steinbrenners were heavily advocating for Steve Cohen to buy this team. They were all about it. They wanted another rich owner. So,
yeah, it's good for baseball.
It is good for baseball. Yeah. It is, but this is all like they're certainly not complaining that Steve Cohen went out and spent a ton of money on this. They're not at all. And I think a part of them is in a way because they felt so much pressure to do this from the fan base, something they probably didn't want to do. I bet you some of them are so stoked that there was a Steve Cohen out there to spare them from having to do this
in 2 seconds, right? Because everyone, I mean, Bill Madden was talking to Randy Levine, like that's very obvious,
right.
And that came out 0.5 seconds after. So
100%, and I get it. I can completely understand it. We're fans who are playing in the moment-to-moment emotions of this. But if you're somebody just looking at on paper, looking at the money, looking at the value, and been with the organization a long time to see what contracts do over time, that had to be a scary prospect, a scary, crazy thing. Someone like Steve Cohen, who seems to not give a crap about anything with money, This won't hurt him in the same way. Though I do think, and somebody brought up today, that with different collective bargaining agreements and things like that, it could put more pressure on a deal like this down the road in terms of penalties you're paying and so forth. So there are some unknowns with a 15-year deal like this.
Because
it's going to look different. So I mean,
right, in 2 years we're going to have a cabal of angry owners who are pissed right now about this deal, that every single player is now going to point to this as some kind of baseline.
And now Hal can just join the picket line because he didn't sign Soto. He'll be like, yeah, stop him. They're ruining the game.
So we got some more questions from listeners and followers that I want to dive into before we hit our pivots hard. First from Kenny Glantz at KMcAwesome. Favorite Christmas movie?
Wow, that's a pivot.
That's a big pivot.
I got to go National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Nice.
Okay. I don't know, man. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life is a classic. I watch that once a year.
Is it your favorite?
I don't know. Christmas movies are Bad Santa. Let's go Bad Santa. That movie makes me laugh.
I'll go Elf.
Okay.
And now we have, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
No.
Yes.
No. I will die hard on this.
What is a Christmas movie?
I'll leave.
But a movie that
I'm gone.
On Christmas?
This is like how the boys are back in town is a Christmas song, because there's no other occasion during which all the boys would be back in town. From Jacob PM at Jacob B Speaks, you should predict Clay Holmes' success as a starter this season, ERA and everything. I mean, I think we would all agree 220 innings, 1.75 ERA, 7 WAR, Cy Young, right? Like,
is that a mistake just to not have a really good bullpen?
Yes, I think so. I understand the allure of making Clay Holmes a starter because he has really good stuff, and being a ground ball pitcher, you can imagine him working efficiently, and he still misses enough bats, to give you that strikeout element. But I don't think you can be a starter who just throws a sinker and 2 different types of slider. And as much as I'm enamored with the 4-seamer that he showed last year, he threw it like 20 times. So acting like that's a real 3rd/4th pitch seems extreme to me. And look, like, would it shock me if it works? No, but it would surprise me a lot more if he's a really good starter than if they just say, actually, you know what, we should turn this guy into a multi-inning demon Chad Green 2017 reliever.
That's what I mean. I think that is a reasonable thing to plan for, that Clay Holmes could be a multi-inning guy. I still don't see specifically what in his repertoire or what Clay Holmes does that made people think this is the one I want to turn into a starter. I mean, some relievers that have like 5 pitch mixes and stuff like that, I understand you can project them out easier. I don't know what it is about Clay. And I know from talking to Max Greenfield a little bit, he knows some people in the Yankees organization, they don't get it either, apparently. Yeah. They're kind of confused as to why he was targeted by the Mets to do this. I guess maybe even another team was thinking about doing it. So there must be some commonality that these teams are seeing with him that makes them think that. But it's not like he's gone multiple innings with us that it's shown that he can do this. And like you said, Will, his pitch mix doesn't scream starting pitcher by any stretch. He'd probably have to add a changeup or something, you think, right? I don't know.
I wonder if it's just like in vogue now with like the Jordan Hicks and
it's a cheap way to get a starter, right? Yeah. 3 for 38 if you find a starter. Like,
I guess.
I really think it's like if you throw it at the wall, you see what sticks. Yeah, worst case, it's in the bullpen. You're in the bullpen with him, and
I guess you love the sinker, right? You just assume that sinker will get ground balls over many innings, that will continue to get ground balls. It could have a high ceiling to it. Pretty cheap price for somebody with a high ceiling start. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's weird for them to go all in on Juan Soto here, but then to have this rotation that is weirdly patchwork right now. Yeah. I don't get what this isn't Mets Files, but I don't really get what they're doing over there.
I agree. From Nick at Nick JK070, who will be the average fan's scapegoat for next year's bullpen now that Clay Holmes is officially gone?
I mean, if they try to put Mark Leiter Jr. in high leverage and that doesn't take, I could see that. Although I do think he's going to be better next year. Like, I think people are discounting him a little bit. Like, he showed up in the postseason.
I also think
Mark
he's going to be
good.
I also think he's going to perform better next year, but I think the difference with Mark Leiter is his bad is not unlucky. Like his bad is just getting hit ridiculously hard.
Yes. Home runs.
So to the extent that we're looking for a parallel to Clay in some way, like you could imagine it being Tim Hill, who I expect to be back, where like he gets a ton of ground balls and they just get through. I could imagine it being Ian Hamilton because he has some of the Clay where like he's going to strike a guy out, get a ground ball, throw a wild pitch, and like anything might happen.
Luke Weaver regression would lead to some big time hatred.
Man, yeah, that's a great answer. I think you probably just nailed it.
Yeah, because this totally undeserved hype now. I mean, not undeserved hype, but undeserved expectations that he's now needs to be this like one of the best closers in baseball. That's not a good starting point for Luke Weaver expectations. He was much more fun as a $1 million experiment guy that worked out.
And now people want him to be Edwin Diaz or
I mean, who was it that was called in the playoffs? Somebody on MLB Network was saying this is the best reliever in baseball. He had that tag on him last year. Like you can't live up to that now.
No,
so
definitely not. From Rob Sasso at Sasso CT, rank Shane Spencer's 1998, Aaron Small's 2005, Gary Sanchez's 2016, and Matt Carpenter's 2022.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's good, and I think it's especially good because it's two of a kind in each place.
Yeah.
It's like rookie bursts onto the scene with Sanchez and Spencer, and then like where the hell did this come from with Aaron Small and Matt Carpenter?
With all due respect to Aaron Small, I think we can agree he's the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
There, right? I mean, he was 10-0, which was cool, right? But that's about. I mean,
hear me out.
Spencer was hitting a grand slam like every other week.
Hear me out.
I don't know.
Aaron Small pitched.
How many innings did he
Yankees
throw?
Fared so well in games that Aaron Small pitched that Randy Johnson, one of the 10 best pitchers of all time, was like, "Hey, dude, Aaron Small, you're the ace now." Like, getting that out of Randy Johnson is pretty sick.
Yeah. Dude, he threw 76 innings that year. Like,
okay, so he's last. Fine, you got me.
It's a great memory. I think largely a great memory because his last name is Small and he did big things. But, you know, it was, the other ones definitely on a value basis were much bigger.
Okay, so it's ascending Aaron Small, Matt Carpenter.
Probably.
Right?
Oh, he was insane. I mean, that was ludicrous.
Man. He was so good.
But Gary was also like ludicrous.
Gary was bonkers.
Yeah, as a catcher too, that was like impossible. Yeah.
Should have won Rookie of the Year. Absolute robbery. I'm going Small, Carpenter, Spencer.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. That's hard to put Carpet third, dude.
I put Carpenter above Spencer.
Okay.
Shane Spencer is just too long ago, but that was insane.
Shane Spencer was I mean, it was insane, but Carpenter was like rate basis, like better than anyone but Judge.
He had a 200 WRC plus.
Yeah, like what?
You know, it's recency bias, but I'm with you. Actually, I'm going to put Carpenter too. We'll put Shane Spencer.
I mean, Shane Spencer was the Shane Spencer of his generation. One question that I did some pre-work to look into from the chef at Chef the 24. Could an addition of Jock Peterson, and Bellinger be enough to compete offensively? So I looked into this just based on the Steamer projections. And if you add...
Where does Jock play? Before we even get into this, where would Jock Peterson play?
Well, so we would have to address that. I don't know. I think you'd have to teach him first base, I guess.
Yeah.
So Jock's... Steamer projection, I think, assumes a platoon because it's only 460 plate appearances. But he has a 125 WRC plus, and then Bellinger is a 109, WRC plus in a full season. If you add that to the projections for Judge, Volpe, Jazz, Wells, Stanton Dominguez, Ben Rice, and Oswaldo Cabrera, and I'm totally fudging it by putting Ben Rice in there. Because now you have like 2 or 3 first basemen. It's a 118 WRC plus for the team. The WAR doesn't work out great. if you get Jock, Bellinger, and Gleyber Torres, you also have a 118 WRC plus, but you have like 2 more WAR. So I don't know. The answer is yes. Like any above average hitters that you add to this team, they're going to be projected for like a 115 or higher WRC plus. Like this is not going to be a bad offense if the young guys play somewhere near where they're projected.
Yeah.
So the answer there is yes. The answer there is also, I would love Jock. I don't think he fits on the team. And there are better bats out there than Bellinger, particularly if you think his main role is playing first base, which I think a lot of people don't. But if that's how you're thinking about Cody Bellinger, you should probably look elsewhere for a bat at first base.
I see like so few avenues that do not have Cody Bellinger playing center field for the Yankees next year.
Yeah,
it just seems to make way too much sense for what they want to do.
We're gonna start to get into that.
Which is the Whipple plan. He was the one of the 3.
Yeah.
Of course, you also had Soto.
Process. No, I actually didn't have Soto.
Oh, is that right? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are a number of questions that just involve like where do the actually there's one more from the inimitable Happy Holiday Alley at AlleyBear29. What do you think about people having favorite players? Obviously, the logo on the hat is more important than the head under it, but I've seen everything from I'm boycotting next season except to boo the Mets to people shouldn't have favorites, and I'm wondering what you guys think.
That's a good question.
Whipple, you have a favorite player.
Yeah, and he almost left. Thank God that didn't happen. Otherwise, I would probably have had to quit YankeesFiles earlier. Yeah, I mean, I think that like it's part of the fun of being a fan. Like if your favorite player was Soto, you're definitely allowed to be upset. Like nobody can tell you how to be a baseball fan. You can like we've said this a bunch of times. Like it really is like whatever you want it to be. I would say that it's definitely more fun to like enjoy watching the team and then like also enjoy watching your favorite player and then don't make the team contingent on your favorite player. Definitely don't spend time booing other teams. Like that just doesn't seem fun or productive to me and you're not going to feel good about yourself. So that's just my advice is like just pick a team and do whatever you want with that team. But the whole like hate watching, booing, and also this goes into like, you know, being angry at the Yankees because they've squandered the dynasty years or whatever. Just watch the games and I think your life would be a lot easier. But have a favorite player. It's fun.
Yeah, I think like you said, I mean, do whatever works for you. Being a fan is a personalized experience. You want to do what works for you. And for me, I mean, my favorite player is I have a favorite active player. I have a favorite, non-active player, retired player that was on the Yankees. It's so this idea of separating.
Who are they?
Well, I don't. I guess Aaron Judge might have to be my favorite player right now. I'm not putting a ton of thought into it, but Mike Mussina has always been my favorite pitcher of all time. Love Mike Mussina, but
hell yeah.
As a Yankees fan, right? I mean, I have a hard time separating that because being a fan of the Yankees means I still love all of those players that played on the team before too. My fandom is not individualized for 2025, 2024. It's every year I've ever watched all together at once. So that's why I could never just stop being a Yankees fan if somebody left, because I still root for everybody that I've watched my whole time being a fan. So I'm not.
You're never going to stop rooting for Zoilo Almonte or Andy Phillips or
Andy Phillips, man, the eye black. He was going to be a ball player. He was
also. This kind of goes into something else we haven't really talked about, like how we're going to remember this season. I'm going to remember Juan Soto as a great Yankee for a year, and
for sure,
I really enjoyed watching. Like it was a very fun year. And his home run was definitely one of the highlights of Yankees, the last 15 years. Like all that stuff doesn't have to just go away. I think a lot of times, like people diminish the moments that didn't directly lead to a world championship or if they get mad at the guy. But like you said, Steve, it's like the continuity of Yankees history. Most of these guys will leave or have left. Like it's very rare for a guy not to leave. So
we're not used to this,
people,
we're not used to somebody big like this leaving. Cano did it once, right? But the Yankees were terrible the last year he played for them. So there was a sense of like, maybe we need to redo everything anyway. but we're not used to having this kind of thing happen. So it's an odd thing to say, to know that this player you just had that just led you to a World Series is going to spend the majority of his career across town now. And
Yeah,
that is just a weird thing to
Sucks.
feel.
so much different than
Yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah.
And
So
they
I think-
lowballed Cano a lot more, so I think
They
you're
did.
right.
I think have favorite players. It's fine. It's good. You should have exactly my favorite players though, so that we agree on everything.
And wait, Will, where's your favorite player going to be playing this year?
I hope second base in the Bronx. I think
What?
we can get back into that. Wait, are
Your
are-
actual
oh, you're
favorite
talking
player?
about my actual favorite player. My actual favorite player is going to be catching in Baltimore, and thankfully I'll be spending the summer there. So Gary, see you soon. Is it fair to say Andy Phillips was Tyler Austin before Tyler Austin?
I don't think Andy Phillips went to Japan and became like the greatest hitter in
Yeah,
Japanese
Tyler
history.
Austin
over
just
there,
won a
though.
batting title, I think.
He's insane over there. He is so
was
good.
Good
Yeah,
for him.
I know.
All right, a few more questions. Just people I want to shout out for sending these in because they all will relate to kind of the topics that we'll cover over the rest of the show. From NYY fan at NYY NYG GSW. Can the Yankees acquire both Vlad and Tucker next offseason in free agency for less money than Soto? Surely they'll accumulate more WAR within those contracts. From Kenny Glantz again, thoughts on the Soto contract? Would it have hamstrung the Yankees if he'd taken the deal they offered? What's your best plan B? Would you trade for Arenado if it included Donovan? Would you trade for Belly if it included Nico? Would you sign Carlos Santana? Why do you disrespect down-ear dogs?
Oh, that was that one. Okay.
From the Sports Moment at Sports Moment HQ, realistic returns you'd be okay with for Dominguez. So just a lot of like, where do we go from here with some of the ancillary factors included? I put out a tweet earlier in which I said my official offseason plan or my official offseason wish list is Teoscar Hernandez, Max Fried, Lamonte Wade Jr., Luis Robert, Nick Mears, and other relief pitchers. But there's so many good names out there. Like, there are also so many bad names out there. But like, would it be interesting to pursue Christian Walker? Sure, it totally would be. Do I think the Yankees need to bring back Gleyber Torres at this point? Yeah, I absolutely do. Could you sell me on Corbin Burns? Sure, you could. Is the news that Kyle Tucker is apparently technically available interesting, although I don't think the Yankees have the prospect capital to even get 1 year of Kyle Tucker? Like that's cool. Anthony Santander's out there, although I'm less interested in him. Jock Peterson is obviously out there. So like, I don't even know that I've totally come to terms with or made sense of the universe of available players, especially when you consider guys that they could pursue via trade. But how does this roster come together? I think there are pretty clearly two open spots in the infield. And depending on how you feel about guaranteeing Jason Dominguez a job, there are 1 to 2 spots open in the outfield. Like, where do you even begin?
I don't know.
Juan Soto back.
The
Okay,
funny
I'm
thing
sorry.
about getting Juan Soto back, though, is, I mean,
He
we talked
doesn't
about it
solve
before,
the
but
roster crunch.
no,
No.
the positional situation is still a massive issue, and that's
It's
why
arguably worse with Juan Soto. Like, if
It
one thing
is.
that's actually worse if Juan Soto resigns is you absolutely have to put Aaron Judge in center field. So,
after
to-
play him at
or
first
left,
base
yeah.
or some insane thing. Yeah,
but yeah, to Kenny's question about like, would it have hamstrung the Yankees? No, it would obviously be better to have Juan Soto than not to have Juan Soto. But that specific thing of like actually deploying a defense, that would have been worse.
I'll say with the hamstrung by Juan Soto question that I don't know if this is controversial, but I mean, if there is an outcome that leads to the Yankees being in severe like financial tightness, can't make any moves, and they're not a good team anymore, that probably only occurs with the Juan Soto contract if it went horribly wrong. Not signing him does leave you open to a million other freedoms and possibilities and things you can do. You'll probably not have the highest of highs, but the lower lows are not even going to be as possible as if you had signed Juan Soto. In a manner of speaking, I would have taken him every day of the week. But
Of course.
there was a risk there that if anything happens to him and you're paying him $53 million a year while you're paying Judge $40 million a year and Cole 36, I mean, that's you're
Right.
going to be in
Yeah,
some
it's
serious.
not like there was something about Jacoby Ellsbury that made him the only guy on the planet to whom the Jacoby Ellsbury thing could happen.
Right.
Like
I mean,
that is in the set of outcomes for everyone. You hope
Yeah,
it doesn't
absolutely.
happen, but like it's there.
I mean, you have Albert Pujols. Like, I know he was
Yep.
older, but a significant portion of the Juan Soto contract would overlap age-wise, and nobody would think that would happen. Like in a million years. So
Think about Miguel Cabrera deal 2, the
Oh
second
my
one he signed.
gosh.
I mean, that was just abysmal. And Soto will be signed through the same ages.
Yep.
So I mean, you're not paying for that. You're paying for these first 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. I get that, but yeah, it would hurt.
Never seen 15 years. Like, it's unknown.
Yeah. Who knows
So,
what it'll look like? Yeah.
who knows what the world will look like? We're all
Yeah.
going to be like in our 40s.
Yeah, Whipple's going to be like the commissioner or the president by the time the Soto deal's up.
That's insane.
If I can get to be the commissioner by the time Soto reaches his opt out, I'll see what I can do.
That might
If I have the courage, that would be the future meme.
That is an opt out that will be used less than any other opt out in history. I mean,
It's
it
the
will mean,
least used opt
it will
out of all
mean
time.
nothing. It will mean nothing.
What world would we live in if the Mets would let him walk over, I mean, he'll probably use it, right? And they'll just trigger it. Or you think they're not even going to?
Or not. I mean, if it's going well, he'll use it. They'll trigger it. If it's not going well, he won't use it, and he's there forever.
Wait, the opt out's 5 years in, right?
Yeah.
There's if he uses it, they have to call his bluff, right?
Well, they'd override for the 40, right? Like 100%.
Actually, no, you're right, though. They might just say screw it.
Because there's no way.
Who's going to sign him to 10 years?
Exactly. The biggest thing about this Juan Soto deal is that he's 26.
Yeah.
Like I was having a conversation with a former coworker today who was saying like, wow, if this is where the market is going, imagine what a true 5-tool guy like Ellie De La Cruz is going to get. And ignore, but like Ellie, in addition to the fact that Ellie is never going to be as good a hitter as Soto, he's going to be 28. He's going to be 2 seasons older, like age seasons older than Juan Soto when he hits free agency. And people are going to think his body's going to age worse because of how tall he is. So like I think we are underestimating in this conversation what Juan Soto's age did for this deal.
It is like, it's like the entire thing. I mean, really, and it's obviously he's insanely good, but you just don't come to the market at that age ever. That just doesn't really happen, right? So that's why we're here talking about this right now.
But I think if he's the franchise player and he's an MVP in 5 years, 5 MVP type seasons, and he opts out, like, do you really think Cohen's gonna let him go? Cohen's gonna be like, he's our franchise. I just think I guess not. It's not rational.
No, I guess if he's producing at a rate that is actually making the money they're paying him completely worth it, then that could be different, I guess, and they would really have no choice. But I think Juan Soto could be an extremely good player for the next 5 years and not come close to making the value of that contract.
For sure.
I mean, it's so I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I hate to say this. I think the contract. Like, I get Ohtani's contract being where it was. It makes a lot more sense to me in terms of like sponsorship, what he means for the media market in Japan. Yeah, I don't think Juan Soto has that same effect. No matter how good Juan Soto is, he's not Ohtani level. So I feel like, maybe Cohen says it's not worth it, but I don't know. Maybe he's just like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, so anyway, who should play for the Yankees?
I don't know. A lot of good players.
So much easier criticizing other teams. Like, come on. No. I mean, I think Bellinger is the obvious fit, like in center. It made a lot of sense to me before. It makes a lot of sense to me now. I really think to pair with that, like in addition to Bellinger and probably Fried or a starter, like you said, I think they should call up Gleyber Torres and see what's going on, because it just makes way too much sense for them not even to consider him coming back. Like, in addition to the production, I feel like you just want guys right now who are like, Gleyber Torres wants to be on this team so badly, and the production's there at a position you need. Like, I don't know. Like I said on our text thread, can they just apologize for not respecting whatever?
Also, consider that it would make me happy.
Right. Like, I think if you get Bellinger and Torres and whatever else at first base, like, that's at least you've raised your floor a lot.
I do wonder if the way, because in recent years the market has been kind of weird for a lot of free agents, right? Prices have been kind of
Yeah.
lower for some time. I do wonder if the fact that this market we're clearly in an expensive market right now. Even before Soto signed, everyone was getting above what their expected outcome was going to be. Willie Adames, Yusei Kikuchi, whoever had signed was getting more. Does that not bring maybe Glaber back into the picture a little bit more? There's no draft pick compensation attached to him. You probably don't have to give too many years at too high of an average annual value. I mean, I wonder if it does change their calculus. I feel like they've made up their mind. They don't want to go back to Glaber, but
I think you're right.
I
just
think,
feel like
God, it looks like a
everything on
good
the
move now.
He just keeps
Yeah.
making more and more sense. I liked Steve when you asked like why couldn't Willie Adames have waited another day?
I know it's brutal. That would have,
But like I don't know on that
Jeter and all that
contract
stuff.
though. You really
It's a
would
lot of
sign
money.
him?
Pay it.
Of all of the high priced free agents, not Juan Soto on the market, that was the one guy I was willing to. I would have been okay going to a lot of money on.
It's also like, what is it, $182 million? It's like
It's 7 years, yeah.
7 years. I don't
that's
know.
not that much.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess
that's
we're
not
all
that
on it.
much anymore.
It's not. That's the crazy thing.
That's
The
not even
Overton
that much
window
bigger
is
than
just
like
big.
the Jason Worth deal.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point. Okay. I think my other thought is, I think you call up the Twins and see what's going on there. Correa.
For Correa?
You're talking about Chuck Correa?
I actually,
Yeah,
100%.
or maybe Buxton, but Correa is what I'm thinking of.
I think Correa makes sense. I really do. And his
It would be
deal
so-
has so much injury protection built into
Right.
it too. So there's really not as much risk.
I
as
think
it
you
seems
need
like.
you just need something like a Correa, or we can talk about Luis Robert. Obviously, different acquisition costs, but I
Yeah.
know like you need the if factor, at least half of the if factor from someone to get
I
people
agree.
interested from a marketing perspective.
So
And I do think expensive players on other teams are the most acquirable. Like I think more than the free agent market, more than anything
Mike
else,
Trout.
trading for an expensive player, maybe Mike Trout, not Mike Trout, but that
I
would be
know.
fun.
if it was Mike Trout.
Yeah.
But
This won't surprise anyone. Byron Buxton, sign me the hell up. He makes $15 million a year, or like not even.
Yeah,
And
he's just
sure,
never healthy.
He only plays 80 games a year, but Carlos Correa only played 80 games last year. I don't know.
That's true.
He's just such a beast. I also can't get my brain away from when we had Jake Cave on the podcast and he was like, when Byron Buxton's healthy, like,
yeah,
you can't tell me he's not as good as Mike Trout. And like, he is right. He's never healthy, but he is right.
wait,
Yeah.
what's the Buxton contract? 15 million for
It's 7 years, 100 million with
Ru-
maybe with an option.
Seven
For
from
what
now?
years?
It expires after 2028. So 4 more years.
Okay.
I'll
How
take
old
that
is he
in a
right now?
second.
He's going into his age 31 season.
Oh. Buxton's
so is
already
Carlos
31.
Correa.
Yeah, but Buxton plays center field, super
Yeah.
demanding, crazy athletic position.
Carlos Correa is like a 6'9" shortstop.
Yeah, I think he'd move to third base for sure.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
assume. I just
Yeah.
feel like Carlos
He's not
Correa
moving
is-
Volpe off short.
I
Yeah.
guess not.
Correa's better, and he usually plays more games than Buxton.
He does. Like I'm agree. Like in terms of if each player hit their ceiling, give me Byron Buxton.
Yeah.
I think Correa has a much higher chance of hitting his ceiling than Buxton does at this point.
But like players,
Okay,
I
call him up.
players I contracts, like just call up the Angels, tell them how bad they are. Say what would it take to get Mike Trout? Like get Mike Trout on the conference call with Cashman and Perry Minasian. Be like,
Get Mike Trout on the horn.
we got.
I was joking about they got Kikuchi, so they must be trying to compete, but that might not have anything to do with. They might be willing to get rid of Mike Trout. It's not worth talking about.
The
likelihood of it
Angels
is
might
so
see
low,
Mike
but
Trout as an albatross. They
They
might.
probably do. I mean,
If
but
you
he's
want-
also their whole thing. He's all they got.
But
Not working.
Taylor Ward could be their whole thing. Taylor
what
Ward.
would
also could be a
fans
Yankee.
say? The two fans that are left.
Okay.
I mean,
What
Ohtani-
would the
No,
fans
you just got
say?
rid of
Ohtani left that
Ohtani.
team, and attendance did not change. I don't know what's going on in California, but it is not. They do not care about the outcomes of these games.
Yeah, why is he there
I've
anyway?
been there.
Why is he
It's-
signed to so much money with this godforsaken team? I
That
don't know
place
why
too
he
loyal.
did that to himself.
That place is a Disney attraction. Like they absolutely do not care.
Do you guys ever think about, this is totally off the topic and it's exclusively influenced by me having one good friend in Baltimore who grew up an Angels fan before adopting the Orioles? Have you guys ever heard the radio call of the last out of the 2002 World Series?
No.
Probably. But...
So it's a fly ball to center field, which is being manned by one Darren Erstad.
Oh, yes.
And the call is Erstad says he's got it. And then 2023, for the first time, the Orioles call up Heston Kjerstad, and I just keep making jokes about the Orioles winning the World Series, and it's Kjerstad says he's got it. Anyway, you got to get Mike Trout out of there. The Yankees would be doing him a service. I'd pay a good amount of Mike Trout's contract to have him play for the New York Yankees. Like,
yeah, we said $220 million left on it or something. Was that
something like that? I would pay 60% of Mike Trout's contract.
I think you do that, but it doesn't matter. He's not going to be moved.
I think Correa is a lot more realistic. But what about?
I think they wanted to trade Correa. Yeah.
What about the White Sox? What about Luis Robert?
So I think the White Sox don't want Luis Robert to play for them. Like, that is, I think that's the key thing here. Steve, you're right that he just had an awful year and they'd be selling low, but I think they're tired of him. Like, I think he is their Gleyber Torres. I think their relationship has run its course. I don't think they want him to be on the Chicago White Sox. And the White Sox are poorly run and stupid. So you could give them like whatever awful package they think they want. And then you get Luis Robert, who is fun, can play center field, and will make the right subset of Yankees fans unhappy.
The bidding war will be insane.
Do you think so?
If they're going to be selling him for this cheaper price, you're going to start getting all kinds of people coming up trying to get him, which will only raise the price. I mean,
yeah,
this is Luis. He was not unreal. He was extremely good in 2023. Extremely good. He was hurt last year part of the time too. So it's easier to kind of wipe the slate clean on whatever the actual results were. I think the White Sox are stupid, but I don't think they're stupid enough to trade him right now unless they get a deal that they feel would make sense for him as a good player, not as a player who had a down year last year.
Would you trade Jason Dominguez for him?
What years does Robert have again? I was looking at it earlier today. I don't remember.
It's two.
I think it's two, but I'll confirm.
It's a club option.
Yeah, isn't he on? He's on some kind of like mini deal, right?
So he's under contract this year, and then there are 2026 and 2027 club options. The AAV works out to $8.3 million.
I think you do it, right?
Holy hell. Yeah, I would do that.
Like, Robert is who you'd want Dominguez to be, hopefully.
Yeah, right? It's an unqualified success if Jason Dominguez becomes Luis Robert, in my opinion.
Yeah. I feel like it's harder to stomach that right now because in the wake of losing Juan Soto, I feel like that naturally you're hoping that somebody you have will turn into a star. Right, it's a natural inclination.
Turn someone you have into a star immediately by trading him for a star.
But Luis Robert I love him, and I think he's a great piece to acquire. He's not a sure thing at all. I mean, there are a lot of questions with his game, a lot of them.
He's not a sure thing, but he's a surer thing than Jason Dominguez. I would trade Jason Dominguez and Chase Hampton yesterday for Luis Robert. And
Chase Hampton, sure, yeah, that's. His value doesn't exist anymore.
You know, pick your guy that you're excited about.
Well, the irony is we don't have that many. There's no one. Yeah. This is the issue right now, and part of the reason why trading Dominguez, you're trading 6 years of control, whatever. I think it's still 6 years of control for him, right? I mean, you don't know how it's going to turn out, but that is one of somebody you at least think could be a major league average player. You're hoping that would at least be his floor. And you're trading it for 2 years, we say, or is it 2 years of Robert? 3 years of Robert.
3 if you want it.
And it probably would be more than Jason Dominguez to get him for that. So you're giving up multiple pieces for a guy that is not a sure thing at all. I don't know. That's worrisome to me. I don't know what I'd rather do. But
what if Luis Heel headlined this package?
I'd trade Luis Heel for Luis Robert.
100%.
Like
every day of the week.
I met Luis Heel on Saturday. He was a very nice young man. But holy cow! Like,
you look him in the eye and say you're gone.
Gone.
I would
pack up his little Rookie of the Year trophy and send him packing.
I would take out a personal line of credit to book him a charter flight to Chicago if that's what it took.
They need to trade him. they need
Could he
to trade him
headline a
in general.
package for X player, like on Robert's level? Is that something that could happen?
I don't think he's going to be valued that high. He's not as young as you'd think, for one. But I
Right,
mean,
but he's got a lot of control, right? 4 years,
does,
right?
yeah.
he
Or
does.
5 years. Is it
He
5 or
does.
4 because of the injury?
He got
think
service
it's
time that
4.
whole time, right? So I think it's 4.
4 years of that? I don't know. You're the White
Yeah,
Sox.
4 years.
You're trading Garrett Crochet, like,
1 more year pre-arb.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope they don't. Not that I hope they don't trade for Crochet, because I like Crochet, but I don't think
I
that's
don't
where
think
I
they're
put my
capable of it.
prospects.
No, I mean, if the White
I don't
Sox
know.
trade Crochet, don't you want to bring in like a young
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
starting pitcher?
Well, how many years does Crochet even have? Is it that many more than Heel? I mean, they haven't had Crochet that long. I don't.
Well, they have. I think it's 2 more years. I think he's in ARB.
Crochet has
right?
2 years.
Already? Wow, man, time is flying. I remember him
Yeah.
coming up out of being drafted, and he was pitching right away.
Because
Wow.
he got injured, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. He did. Man.
So anyway,
That's
I
what-
want Luis Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said it last time that I wanted him.
Yeah.
And I absolutely do. I just think the price needs to be right. And I don't think the White Sox will do it till midseason.
How
I
about
think-
Luis Robert and Byron Buxton, and you just assume they won't be hurt at the same time? Galaxy
Yank-
brain.
Yeah, I think the Yankees are going to do the high contract trades and
Yeah.
lower tier free agents.
They'll sign one mid to top free agent
Who
somewhere.
do you
in
think
there.
that's going to be?
I think if it's a mid one, it'll be Christian Walker. If it's a top one, it'll be Max Fried or Corbin Burns, which I don't
Yeah.
see them really doing, but they seemingly are interested in them. So maybe, but I think the years and dollars are going to go way out of control for both of them.
I'm
I think you
becoming
just
more
gotta
and
give
more
it.
convinced that Max Fried is going to end up on the Yankees.
I mean, I think if it's over 200, whatever, you just got to give it. Like,
I was
What-
into it till I started reading about his nerve trouble in his forearm. That just seems so risky.
It does.
So scary.
It is concerning.
Yeah. So I don't know. And Corbin Burns I've been kind of contemplating him declining for years now
The
with everything
Corbin Burns
going
stuff
downhill.
is
So I don't know.
weird
It is
because it's
weird.
like he was so good in 2021
Yes.
that getting worse than that, you can still be a good pitcher, but it's like at what point do you start to get concerned about getting worse every year?
And it's weird because the bottom line results have still been fine.
Yeah.
Right. But his K rate it's amazing looking at it. It's just down every single year until
Yeah.
this last year. It went down to now a below average K rate. And his velocity is not declining. He's throwing as hard
Yeah.
as he ever has. So some of it might be by design.
He
'cause
seemed to suggest this year that it was kind of on purpose, right?
can
That
see
he was
it.
pitching differently.
And this also occurred because 2021, when he was really striking people out, sticky stuff ban went into effect, right?
Mhm.
So there,
Yeah.
there is an element of that could still play a role with how all that went down. So I mean, I don't know. He's still really good, but
Yes.
I think there is a concern there. Max Fried is really good, but there are concerns there. So I think it's whichever
April
risk
through-
is less risky.
April through May 2021, Garrett Cole. People forget how good he was.
Oh my gosh, we talked about this last time, I think, right? Yeah.
It's going to come up
Yeah.
every time.
Just give that man spider tack and let him go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the free agent you want most to end up on the Yankees?
Teoscar Hernandez.
Same.
Really?
Dang.
Where is he playing left then? If he's on the Yankees?
I think
don't
so.
care.
I think you just bite the bullet and put him in left.
No, but like, where does he
Yeah.
play?
Yeah,
Left.
I think. I
Left,
think.
yeah.
Well,
Like, sorry, where has
No,
he
but
played?
it-
Is he a
it-
He
right
played
fielder?
left last year. He played left
Okay.
majority of his games.
he
last
could.
year.
You could put him in left field, or you could put Aaron Judge in center field again and put Teoscar in right and Dominguez in left.
And
Mm.
Cashman just said today it makes sense to move Judge back to center field or back to right field rather.
It does.
I feel like they're just going to be like, we got this opportunity to move him back. Like,
Yeah.
let's get one good thing out of
Yeah.
Soto leaving.
And
Okay.
there,
So yeah,
there really just aren't
Teoscar
that many good
Hernandez.
center fielders to get. Like I
No.
continue to look up and down everything. It's like Cody Bellinger,
Yeah.
like, or like Luis Robert if you could swing that. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of the outfielders we talked about last time that are stretches, like Lars Nootbaar or something like that. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to get those guys. Somebody mentioned Christian Yelich to me today, not a center fielder, but I mentioned high money deals that you could trade for it. Yeah, that's another one, I
You
guess.
can get me excited about Christian Yelich. Okay.
I mean, That's a guy. I'm sure the Brewers would trade him. You know,
Yeah.
I have no doubt they would. He was hurt like all the end of last year, so
Yeah.
who knows how that goes? But
I'm
there's
thinking
no
about it.
rumors there. But
No.
I love Yelly. If he was healthy,
Yeah.
and they paid like half his deal,
They got to do a high money trade. Like, it's actually more fun looking at those than it is the free agents.
yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of free agents, like, I would rather trade for the hitter, or honestly sign Glaber, trade for a hitter, sign a top flight pitcher like Fried. I mean, if there's one guy I want, like, I don't want them to squander what I perceive to be the best players relative to their position. I feel like that's probably Fried and maybe Burns. I mean, I'm also starting to warm up to the idea of a Nathan Eovaldi reunion. I don't.
I quite
that.
like
That could be sold.
I quite like the Eovaldi reunion talks. Yeah,
Especially, I've been starting to think more and more that they should probably be exploring trades for both Heel and Nestor. If you're filling one of those spots with Burns or Fried, like Eovaldi as a secondary starting pitcher acquisition.
But then what's your you have Fried, Cole, Rodon, Eovaldi, Schmidt, and Stroman, I guess. Is it foregone conclusion he's gone?
No, I wish it was, but I don't think it is. I think
the more starting pitchers that sign, the more it feels like someone would be fine with rostering Marcus Stroman on behalf of the New York Yankees. But yeah, until I see it happen.
I just feel like you don't come back from not pitching the whole entire postseason.
I don't know. I don't even know with him. I feel like, to your point, Will, just if you're looking at his statistics, just looking at what he did in 2024, you can move that. You can move those numbers, but not everything that's associated with Marcus Stroman in terms of his decline, his age, no faith in him at all from the team that just had him. I think that just puts a massive dent into the 18 million he's owed or whatever.
And I think, especially given the Yankees and their recent history of developing really good pitching and just knowing how to evaluate pitching, that says a lot.
Yeah.
But I think if we're talking about these super high dollar trades, like maybe that's the form that the salary relief comes in. All right, you guys don't have to pay 20% of Christian Yelich's deal, but you do have to take Marcus Stroman.
For someone like Yelich, for someone whose deal is objectively just bad as opposed to not great, like Bellinger's deal is more like, it's only 2 years, so it's not that crazy bad. And he still was productive last year, so I don't know how much they want to just eat money wise. But yeah, for Yelich or something, certainly he's bad for that deal.
I feel like bad. You're right. Like Bellinger's money, the weight that Bellinger's contract will have is just diminishing the prospect returns. I don't think it's going to come in terms of eating money as well.
Right. Yeah,
that's
I agree.
Point. And who will take Mr. David John LeMahieu?
Oh, that one. I forgot he's still there.
Yeah. It was something came up on MLB Network last night, just projecting the Yankees lineup after Soto had signed, and it had DJ at, I forget, first base, I think. And that was a sinking feel. I thought it was like an error for a second. I was like, oh, they forget he's gone. And then, no, he's not gone. Okay. 2 more years, right?
Wait. Yeah. But what if they went, I don't know who these players are, but like they went all in on the infield, all in on starting pitching, and then they played Trent Grisham in center field.
I'm there for it.
I think there are worse outcomes. I think there are worse outcomes, but
I bet you Trent Grisham in a full season puts up like a 95 WRC plus and 2.5 WAR playing center field.
Trent Grisham, Harrison Bader platoon would be the best.
No, I will not watch Harrison Bader play baseball for the New York Yankees for one more plate appearance. I won't do it. I don't care that he's only facing lefties. I cannot do it. Harrison Bader returning to the Yankees would not just ruin my experience of watching baseball, it would ruin my life. I will not do it. I didn't realize how much I hated watching Harrison Bader play baseball until you just brought up the prospect of me having to watch Harrison Bader play baseball.
So how did we survive 2022 with Hicks, Donaldson, IKF, Harrison Bader,
Andrew Benintendi,
all taking regular at bat?
That team won 100 games or 99 games, whatever it was. Yeah,
it's I do want to point out that Andrew Benintendi, former Yankee, is the highest paid player in the history of his current franchise. And
Yes, he is.
Luis Severino, former Yankee, is the highest paid player in the history of his franchise. Aaron Judge, current Yankee, highest paid player in the history of his franchise. And Juan Soto, former Yankee, highest paid player in the history of his franchise and the history of the sport. I think we're seeing something very clear, which is if you were a good player in 2018, someone's about to pay you a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to say is the Yankees should believe in Andrew Benintendi's 120 WRC plus in the last 2 months of 2024 and go all in to bring him back to the Bronx.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying that about Miguel Andujar.
Oh
Man,
was he that good that last year down the stretch? I didn't even
I don't
follow
think so.
him. I don't
how
think
would
he
you,
was.
if you trade Robert and Crochet, Andrew Benintendi's on the season ticket preview guide of 2025 at the White Sox, like how do you even
Andrew
show up?
Benintendi is exhibit A for why free agents just take the most money. That's what happens. He didn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be there now. He knew this was going to be bad, and he's there because they gave him the most money. That's where he is.
Yeah.
From
But
July 13th to August 18th, Miguel Andujar had a 117 WRC plus.
Okay. Over how many at bats?
116 plate appearances.
Okay, that's not that many.
What's Mike Tauchman doing these days? Is he an option?
I was strongly in favor of the Yankees trying to bring Mike Tauchman back last year. Because he was still kind of like doing stuff. He had a 111 WRC plus last year.
Yeah.
He's not a defender anymore.
Yeah.
Like
I just had some kind of like PTSD of like just being here on the day we lost Juan Soto and the question being, I wonder what Mike Tauchman was up to.
Yeah, he was like an unimpressive defender in right field. Primarily,
he had 4 WAR in 2019.
He was so
that
good. That
crazy
Juice
year.
Paul Tauchman was so good. A little bit
Mike
more
Tauchman
loft on his fly balls, and
ruled.
that guy was awesome. Yeah,
I
loved walkie-talkie.
WRC plus.
What a time!
I loved him so much in 2019. I talked him up so
legend.
much. Yep.
Played a
I thought he
prominent
was
role in
legit.
that crazy Twins game.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I think Mike Tauchman is legit. Like last 2 years, 217 games, a 110 WRC plus.
Yeah, he's solid. He's definitely solid. There was this hope because I remember when we traded for him initially, he had this insane run of AAA performance where he was OPSing like above 1,000, and there seemed to be this untapped, like maybe there is this really, really plus bat here. And in 2019, not only was he hitting like that with power, but he was playing good defense. I thought that they had unearthed like a 5-tool gem of a player, like a Paul Goldschmidt in the outfield kind of thing, where Goldschmidt kind of wasn't super hyped and then came in and did that. That's kind of what it felt like, and that didn't work out that way. But
it does hurt that, to your point, it's the day after Juan Soto leaves and we're reminiscing about 2019 Mike Tauchman.
Yeah,
Juice the baseballs. I think that would make life a lot better.
Whipple,
juice baseballs and spider tack. Bring it all back.
Exactly.
Just let it all fly.
Whipple, who's your number one free agent you would like them to land?
Oh, I think Fried. I mean, like I said, I think do the best you can relative to the position. And I'm just more intrigued playing around with these big money trades. Like number one player at this point, honestly, probably
is Mike Trout.
Mike Trout. Okay, realistically, like I'm just so intrigued by Mike Trout, and I spent like half an hour today just like looking at the possibilities. But no, I think player Correa, free agent Fried. And
if Kyle Tucker's available, that would be the number one. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
The circumstances it took for the Yankees to do what they did last year with Soto will not replicate with Tucker.
Just the planets aligned. Everything was perfect for that to happen. It is weird though. I mean, that their GM Dana Brown. I mean, he was specifically asked about whether or not they would listen on him, and he said he would listen on. I mean, it was very direct, oddly direct. He didn't dance around it. He said that I would listen to him.
Astros player eval is not what it used to be. So,
do you think that a willingness to move Kyle Tucker with a year left, like it pretty clearly signals we don't think we're bringing Kyle Tucker back when he's a free agent? Does that signal we are bringing Alex Bregman back?
I think Bregman will obviously be cheaper, right? I mean, significantly cheaper. So I think they might just see that as a more doable option for them. Maybe they want to bring Tucker back, but they're not sure they can do it. Whereas with Bregman, they're pretty confident they can give him enough money to get him to stay.
Talk about a guy I don't want, Alex Bregman. Do not go near him.
Strongly do not want him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sign him for nothing, sure. But the deal he's going to require, no, thank you.
No Bregman, no Arenado.
No, please not Arenado.
Yeah, that's bad. Yankees should have got Matt Chapman last year.
I'm like,
you were right. I actually was very wrong about that.
I am skeptical of a lot of what Buster Posey has going on, but the Chapman extension and then the Adames deal is starting to, like, that stuff is starting to change my opinion.
Two fantastic players on pretty good deals for what they're worth too.
Will Adames hit 30 home runs and be the first 30 home run giant since Barry Bonds?
No,
almost definitely not. But yeah,
what is it going to take for them?
It would unless he hits like 13 in Colorado, like 2019 Glaber in Baltimore or whatever. Like it would take something like that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, guys.
This was needed.
Yeah, this was cathartic.
It was cathartic.
I don't know that it was informational, but
we're not going to get any resolution on any of these things we're talking about for probably a very long time. That's what makes it hurt a lot for me, is that this is going to be a very slow process now post Soto, trying to piece everything together, waiting on the market to move and leverage to happen and all that kind of thing. So we're going to be sitting here thinking about what they're going to do for months.
Yeah. So I got a chance a few weeks ago to interview former Yankees minor league catcher Ryan Lidge, also graduate of the University of Notre Dame. He's probably really excited about that playoff game. But that was cool. We got to talk about college baseball, life in the minor leagues, Ben Ruda. Look out for that episode to come out here shortly, especially since I'm going to be on vacation next week. So if anything happens, I won't be here to talk about it. Yeah, guys, I think it's time for us to wrap up. The Yankees have their marching orders from us. Those include Carlos Correa, Luis Robert, Teoscar Hernandez, Glaber
Don't forget
Torres,
Mike Trout.
Mike Talkman.
Mike Talkman. I feel
Mike
like
Trout and Talkman.
Mike's Trout and Talkman. I feel like if they bring Tommy Kahnle back, they kind of have an obligation to bring Mike Talkman back. Anyway, parting shots. Whipple, you first. Anything you want to let the listeners, followers, front office know? Speak now.
Burning it. No, I just like all the videos of Yankees fans burning stuff, and I'm like, what if I just took this shirt on and I ripped it in half on the show? And no one responded, and I feel like that means
I didn't see that
idea. So I'm not going to rip it in half, but I remember getting this years ago, and you know what? I was super excited about Soto when he was in DC. I said if he ever came to the Yankees, that would be so cool. He did. It was pretty cool. And so it's really sad that he's gone, but we had our time, and I'm always going to remember it fondly. And I'm going to root against the Mets like hell. I think the Subway Series is going to be very fun. But, like, I just can't bring myself to root for Juan Soto to fail at being a baseball player. And that says a lot about Juan Soto, because we have every right to be mad. But it was a hell of a run, and I'm glad that we got to cover it and talk about it and watch this special player together.
It burns.
Steve, anything for you?
Juan Soto was maybe my favorite non-Yankee player for years. I mean, I'm living outside of DC, so I'm in that orbit a lot with him anyway. I loved Juan Soto from when he came up to when we finally traded for him. So it hurts like extra bad in a way that like I only really got to experience him on my team for 1 year, and now I feel compelled to hate him. I definitely don't actually, but that's going to be the vibe that my entire fan base, our entire fan base, will be having every time he comes up to plate and we're watching. It's going to be booing the hell out of him, and he's going to be a villain and all that. So it does suck, and it wouldn't be that way if we hadn't traded for him and he had just become a free agent, then signed with the Mets. We would have no ill will at all, right? It wouldn't feel like anything. So it does suck that I have to hate him now, but move on.
Yeah. I'm going to congratulate myself on making it through this entire episode talking about bad contracts without suggesting that the Yankees pursue my favorite non-Yankee, Javier Baez.
Oh, dear God.
I'm going to end this episode the same way I started it. Boo.
No, I don't think they should. I wish they had.
You were right
you
about
and Javi go watch Notre Dame football together or whatever it is.
I was very wrong about Javier Baez.
You were so wrong, and that was so obvious at the time.
I'm blinded.
We were sitting in a bar in Baltimore, and you were like, "But what if I could fix, or what if they could fix him? Somebody could teach them discipline."
No, I'm like, blinded by my love for Javier Baez. I kept believing that someone could teach him plate discipline, and then like he'd be an amazing player. And it turns out that's just actually not something that is gonna happen.
His decline needs to be studied. That was pretty remarkable. It fell off faster than Chris Davis.
It's such a shame. It really is. I long for those days of El Mago. Anyway, I hope the Yankees do some cool stuff soon. I think, we had a tweet pop off earlier today in which I pointed out that the Fangraphs depth charts have the Yankees and Mets tied for the 5th most projected WAR, even though the Mets just got Juan Soto. I think my parting shot is the sky is not falling. Like, obviously, there are holes on the rosters that the Yankees ought to address, but the team is in better shape than many act like it is. Steve, to your point earlier, they were just in the World Series. And was Juan Soto very important? And was Clay Holmes very important? And was Gleyber Torres very important? Absolutely. But the Yankees will address that, and they will improve from where they stand today. And they'll be a competitive team, and any competitive team can win the World Series. So that's where I'll leave things. People can keep up with everything we do at Yankees Files at yankeesfiles.com. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, including with the added bonus of video if you are a Spotify listener. Video podcasts go up on the Crosstown Sports YouTube channel, youtube.com/@crosstownsports. If you like the podcast, we hope you'll rate, review, subscribe, give it 5 stars, all that stuff. If you don't, we hope you'll just download it and let it play on silent on 3x speed so it just juices our numbers. We think that would be really nice of you. And we will be back sometime to recap whatever goes on over the next indefinite period. You'll also get that interview with Ryan Lidge about what it's like to go through major league player development, or, player development in the minors, which we hope you will enjoy. And until then, thanks everyone for listening to this new uncharted season of Yankees Files with our new team member. And until next time, let's go Yankees.